Hello, I'm Chisom Izu and I'm from the RyTrack Foundation. RyTrack is a social enterprise that works to prevent young people from getting derailed as they go through their teenage years. We tackle the issue of young people not being equipped to manage the variety of risk factors that affect their adolescent developmental process. During adolescence, as we know, the transition from childhood to adulthood is the most important. Children are becoming more independent and they begin to look at the future in terms of their career, relationships, family, housing, and all these other things that come with life. In essence, they want to belong to society and to fit in as well. In many situations, however, we find that it is left up to the parents, legal guardians, and other authority figures to fill in the role of change agents in the lives of the young person. What we mean by change agents is the person who introduces change in different situations. And this can lead to a young person not developing the ability to take decisions and build that self-awareness that's needed in order to develop properly in life. So as they go through life, the risk factors which don't have a standard way of occurring still stand a chance of derailing them. Now at RyTrack, we believe that for a young person to reduce the likelihood of derailment occurring, they need to observe the 3 R's. These are namely practicing reflection, seeking and utilizing resources, and being resilient. We've adopted agile processes into our workshop content to empower young people to become change agents in their own lives, as knowledge comes from experience and making decisions based on what is known. Now, agile is a system within which people can address complex problems while productively and creatively delivering real results at the highest possible value. For example, in a business setting, we would normally see this employed in a way where the people and time would be focused on a particular project. But in agile derailment prevention, the people and the time are spread across the different risk factors that a young person has identified as them struggling with. So, for example, low school grades, lack of self-esteem, or struggling to get out of a particular comfort zone. These 3 risk factors would not occur one after the other or operate in isolation. So it may seem overwhelming to a young person who knows that these are areas that they must tackle. With Agile comes visibility and accountability, and that Agile approach is designed to come in many forms that help a team successfully work together. In our workshops, we often ask young people for their top 3 advice givers, and we'll often see friends come out on top. Now, this makes sense given their friends' close proximity to their own problems and issues. Where this becomes a problem, however, is when the advice that gets given to them is a snapshot statement that doesn't really consider the many other factors that can impact their choices. The same applies in most situations where there is a lack of collaboration between the different forces in their lives. This can lead to confusion and conflicting statements that are given to the young people as they make the decisions that impact their adolescent period and later life. Now, in the Agile framework, there are many moving parts which include the rules that guide its use in a business environment. However, what we have done is to simplify it a bit. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to run through how the 3 R's can be used in the Agile derailment prevention process. Within the Agile derailment prevention process, we will find 3 roles, 3 events, and 3 artifacts that govern its use. These roles consist of the result owner, the results team, and a success driver. The young person in the Agile derailment prevention process wears both the hats of the result owner and the success driver. They're expected to look at their support group and form the resource team for a particular risk factor. But this team remains highly flexible and adaptive, as the young person would need to do some deep questioning to get to the roots of the risk factors that they face. The success driver here being the person who serves the resource team and looks to ensure that any issues are noted and acted upon. The success driver in this sense is also the person who is familiar with the Agile process, which as I've said, we've simplified for the derailment prevention. Now, Agile teams a lot of times are self-organizing and they're cross-functional. So by self-organizing, we mean that they're assembled by the young person and they choose how best to accomplish their work, rather than being directed by others outside of that team. Now, the cross-functional team has all the competencies that is needed in order to accomplish the work without depending on others. who are not part of that resource team. Now, bringing this team together requires the young person to work with their support group in order to identify the most relevant resources required. Now, building this resource team the Agile way will see the young person evaluating the people in their lives and making more of an effort in order to understand their strengths and weaknesses, so that when they're picking and sourcing out the people for their resource team to deal with a particular risk factor, they are choosing people that can effectively advise them, guide them, and intervene as necessary. Now, the three artifacts that we're going to focus on for the Agile derailment prevention process are the main bucket list, the sprint bucket, and the task board. So these are three resources that are used in order to manage the Agile derailment prevention process. The main bucket list is an ordered list of everything that is known to be a problem. So as we mentioned before, we say, for example, low self-esteem, not doing well in school, so low school grades, and having issues coming out of your comfort zone. Now, this bucket list is dynamic, because as time goes on, there may be risk factors that need to be added, or a risk factor that needs to be taken off because it's not a priority at the moment. So it constantly changes, and in order to identify what the risk factors a young person that they need to work on, this is where reflection comes in. Being able to ask yourself the right questions, being able to have the conversations with the right people in order to identify root causes of any problems in someone's lives. Now, if a risk factor exists, it will need to exist on the main bucket list. The priority of it varies. So, for example, our main bucket list would include the risk factor of low grades, low self-esteem, and, for example, struggling to get out of your comfort zone. Now, these are fed and updated. Another artifact that we must look at is the sprint bucket. The main bucket list items are selected for a sprint, and the plan for delivering this is called the sprint bucket. The sprint bucket is a plan that has enough detail so that changes in the progress towards the main bucket list goals can be understood through simple communication. This bucket is highly visible. It's got a real-time picture of the work that's being done and the plans that the resource team has in order to accomplish what they've set to do in the sprint, and it belongs to the resource team solely, which we're going to refer to as Agile DP moving forward. The Agile DP prescribes three formal events that we can use in order to practice reflection and to be more resilient. Now, these are things like sprint planning, the daily stand-up, and the sprint review. The heart of Agile DP is a sprint, which we've talked about previously. It's a time box of a week or a month, or just less than a month, during which clear actions are followed in order to deal with and identify the risk factor. These are the things that we add into the sprint bucket. Each sprint has a goal of what is to be understood, a designed and flexible plan that will guide understanding of it, the work, and the resulting test that demonstrates the result of what we've worked on. The sprint planning in our example could involve taking an online self-esteem exam just before and after the sprint that we plan to do. I hope you found this video informative, and any further contact information or any further information that you'd require regarding the Agile derailment prevention process, you can reach us through our socials, which I'm under @RyTrackF, and also our email address info@rytrack.co.uk.